All right, so I hope everybody's doing well and you enjoy this fantastic wig that I have on. This 3-8, all right, this is a culture unit. This is the final one. This is about the effects of diffusion, right? And the spatial relationships there it is again, spatial. Like AP loves spatial stuff. So why are people spread out the way they are? And when they are spread out, what do they do differently, right? So in the context of our country, a region, the world, using concepts, processes, models, theories, right? So here we'll talk first about syncretism. Okay, syncretism is when two or more cultures blend together to create a new custom or idea, okay, a practice or philosophy. So examples, the best examples are probably in food. Okay, so you take Thai food as a mix of Chinese and Indian food. I like to think of it this way. If you've seen those restaurants that are KFC and a Taco Bell, okay, so right now they're separate, right? So you have KFC, you have a Taco Bell. If you took those two things and you mixed them together and you had chicken fried tacos, okay, well, now you got something different, okay, or fried tacos, right? Now you've taken those two things, fried chicken and Mexican food, right? So you basically taken American food and Mexican food and you've mixed it together. Okay, you've created something new. I don't care what you want to call it. Okay, whatever. So that's a good example, right? Thai food is the mixture of Chinese and Indian, right? So Rastafarianism is another example. And if you've ever been to Jamaica, right, it's huge there. Judeo Christian cultures with African cultures in the Caribbean. So you have the African influence from the slave trade that's in the Caribbean. You have the European influence, right, that also is there, brought the slaves. So you blend those two cultures together over the course of 100 years in a trapped environment, and you come up with a new culture. That's Rastafarianism. That's syncretism, okay, that blends those things together, okay? Another example of the effect, because that's what this is the effect of diffusion. So another example is multiculturalism, right? So that's diversity within a society. America is all about multiculturalism, right? It's the reflection of our holidays. If you just think about our holidays, we have Martin Luther King Day, okay, for African Americans. There's proposals to have a Juneteenth national celebration, okay, for the official day or unofficial day of when slavery ended. Okay, so that would be another African American holiday. You have the 4th of July that blends us all together. We have Thanksgiving that brings us all together. You have St. Patrick's Day. Okay, you have Cinco de Mayo. All of those holidays are example of our multiculturalism in the United States, right? It's a mix of everything. It's a melting pot, if you will. All right, acculturation is another one, and you adopt elements of a different culture. Usually, you adopt elements of what the biggest culture is. So, in a country, okay, you would adopt the dominant culture, right? So, Muslim students that see other students eating during Ramadan. I had a Muslim student 20 years ago now. This is a great story. You guys know his brother. He was our campus patrol officer here. His family's Muslim, and Officer Saleh. So this is Officer Saleh's little brother, little brother, and maybe it's his older brother. Either way, it's one of his brothers, and it was during Ramadan, which is the holy month for Muslims, and they do not eat when the sun is up. Okay, so during sunrise, right, when the sun's in the sky like it is right now behind me, they don't eat, okay, for an entire month. Now, when the sun goes down, they'll eat, or before the sun comes up, they'll eat. They don't go an entire month without eating. But these kids come to school, and they're in a culture where everybody else is eating lunch, right? So other kids are just shoveling it in, tater tots or whatever they're eating, and these Muslim kids aren't eating anything, right? So that day, one of those days, I saw our cafeteria aide just go off on Officer Saleh's brother because she said, "Why aren't you eating your lunch?" And he said, "Because it's against my religion." And she was super mad at his response, right? But if he would say, "Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and eat," that would be acculturation, right? Because he's blending in with what the other kids were doing. Probably if he went to the school, where Arabic was spoken somewhere in the Middle East and it was all Muslims, well, then everybody would observe that and he probably would follow that same thing. Okay. So the picture is taken away by my beautiful picture there. I don't know if I can get rid of that without it staying away permanently, but that's okay if it does. So let's try this. Oh, how about that? Okay, so you can see this is a girl that practices Islam. She has the hijab on her head, and she's wearing a purse, and she has on those boots and blue jeans, which is totally American, right? So she's still maintaining her culture, but she's adopting the blue jeans that are a mainstream of the American culture. So the bigger culture is sneaking in um, to that. That's what acculturation is. Assimilation, right, is sometimes forced adoption of the prominent culture. This is a picture of students going to a Native American boarding school. So they literally took Native Americans and put them in school, which is a good thing, right? Educate them, teach them how to read and write. Okay, but while they were in that school, they also had to learn how to write in English, right? So it got rid of their native language. They had to dress a certain way. They had to cut their hair a certain way. Okay, they certainly didn't have any aspects of Native American culture. So this is what's called a forced assimilation. Okay, they are being forced to assimilate into American society. There are other forms of assimilation where the people just do it, right? Over the course of time, they give up their own culture and become a part of society. Like it used to be a big deal that you'd have ethnic neighborhoods in St. Louis that were Czechoslovakian. Well, that neighborhood is gone, right? They've assimilated into American culture. Heck, most Irish people, most Italian people, they've assimilated into American culture because they've married into other things and other cultures, and that's changed. So people usually in America, because of our multiculturalism, assimilate into American society. This is an example of force. So I also made that link live for you. So if you look at this, you can go read about it. It's pretty crazy what happened to the Native Americans. Okay, so the effects of diffusion. You have acculturation, assimilation, syncretism, and multiculturalism. Those are all things that diffuse culture throughout the world. So that brings you to the end of this, right? So you're at the end of Unit 3, Section 8. The end.